Michael Cohen pled guilty to 8 felony charges.
Over there, you can see the charred body of someone who's presumably one of the fighters.
You little radical socialist, you corrupt bastards.
The U.S. government has deported the last known Nazi war crimes suspect on American soil. Yaakov Pauli admitted to guarding a Polish concentration camp, but lived in New York for decades because other countries refused to take him. Still, he may not stand trial. German prosecutors say they don't have enough fresh evidence to charge him with war crimes. More than 41,000 people in Europe were infected with measles in the first 6 months of this year. That's nearly double the number infected in all of 2017, and nearly 8 times the number infected in 2016. The surge is centered in Ukraine, where 23,000 people have gotten the disease after an anti-vaccination movement and a shortage of doses. Prisoners across the U.S. began a strike today with a list of 10 demands that includes better pay, an end to sentences of life without parole, access to rehab, and reinstating voting rights for prisoners and former felons. The strike goes through September 9th, the anniversary of the Attica prison rebellion that police shut down by killing 29 inmates. Arctic sea ice is at the lowest level ever recorded, 40% below the average for this time of year. Record temperatures are even melting some of the oldest and thickest sea ice off North Greenland. The ice crust there is normally frozen year-round, but has now melted enough that water has pulled part of it away from the coast.
The Mueller investigation has been going at a slow simmer for months now. Today, it boiled over. In New York, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, pleaded guilty to 8 counts of tax fraud and campaign finance violations. Critically, he told a federal judge that when he paid out hush money to 2 unnamed women, good bet those names are Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, he violated campaign finance law at the direction of a candidate for federal office, which means Donald Trump.
Mr. Cohen made guilty pleas for those campaign violations. These pleas remind us that it is illegal for corporations to make contributions to candidates, and it is illegal to make contributions in excess of the amount that Congress set for individuals. That is a strong message today, and we will not fear of prosecuting additional campaign finance cases.
You could say that was the prosecutor's way of putting the Trump campaign on notice. There's more. In Alexandria, Virginia, a jury convicted Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, of 8 counts of bank fraud, tax fraud, and failing to report a foreign bank account, in a trial prosecuted by Mueller's team.
You may have heard that the jury reached a verdict.
In a brief statement, Manafort's lawyers said their client is now evaluating all of his legal options.
Any reaction to Michael Cohen, Mr. President?
President Trump, landing in West Virginia, strongly defended Manafort and trashed the investigation with a familiar line.
This is a witch hunt and it's a disgrace. But this has nothing to do with what they started out, looking for Russians involved in our campaign. There were none. I feel very badly for Paul Manafort.
But Trump had nothing to say to shouted questions about Cohen. This news is so colossal that it overshadowed a third key Mueller development, another delay in the sentencing of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who pled guilty last year to lying to the FBI. That delay suggests that Flynn is still actively cooperating with investigators. But there are some wrinkles here. Cohen's plea deal reportedly doesn't involve cooperation with investigators, and we don't know if Manafort will cooperate either. But the point of the Manafort trial was to get him to play ball. Not only do they have more leverage now, the prosecutors have a whole other path to cooperation because Manafort is scheduled to be tried on separate counts in the DC District Court. And just because Cohen's plea deal today doesn't have some kind of side agreement, doesn't mean there isn't one in the works. So in one day, the president's former lawyer, campaign manager, and national security advisor are all in the process of pleading guilty, being found guilty, and possibly cooperating with Mueller. Trump can say what he wants about these guys. He can say he barely knew them, but they knew him. and they knew the intimate details about his personal and political operations. And that is exactly what Trump has been fighting to keep from public view. That fight just got a lot harder.
Mackenzie Mays has been reporting for the Fresno Bee for 3 years.
Yeah, hey, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you in person. Yeah, definitely.
Today, she's writing a piece on complaints that Republican Congressman Devin Nunes and his staff are never available to residents in his district.
But do you feel like he's not paying attention to his constituents here?
Oh, yeah, he's more concerned with protecting Trump than anything to do here in the Central Valley.
Nunes has been a top liberal target ever since he joined Trump's transition team. There are protests like this one outside his Clovis office every week. Still, he's not considered at risk of losing this fall in his deep red district.
I should be back in the newsroom soon. Okay, bye.
Mays doesn't typically cover politics. But she's the reporter who wrote a piece on a lawsuit filed against a winery Nunes is invested in. A winery employee who worked on a charity cruise alleged men she believed were important investors in the company did cocaine on board, drew straws for sex workers, and, quote, reviewed out loud and in detail the sexual services performed. The winery settled, but in a statement to Vice News said no one in the group had any personal or business connection to the winery. Nunes himself is not alleged to have been on the cruise, or to have had anything to do with the cruise at all.
I'm Devin Nunes, and I approve this message.
But he did take the Fresno Bee's report seriously enough to release a 2-minute ad attacking the paper as fake news.
Sadly, since the last election, the Fresno Bee has worked closely with radical left-wing groups to promote numerous fake news stories about me.
The Bee responded to Nunes' attack with an editorial calling the ad fake news. But the blowback Mays got was intense.
Nice little hit job, you little radical socialist. You need to apologize to the American people. You corrupt bastards. Corrupt as hell.
Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news.
The president's attacks on the media started out as a way to discredit negative coverage, but have turned into something far more personal.
CNN is fake news. I don't take questions from CNN. John Roberts of Fox. Let's go to a real network.
And now, Trump's attacks have empowered some local politicians to take his tactics to the local level.
The Nunes story about the yacht and the winery and the cocaine, that was verbatim out of, privileged court documents. There's nothing that I could have, stretched or done. It seems like more and more politicians are succeeding in forcing us, the reporters, into the story, which I think is probably on purpose, right? It complicates things and it makes it harder for us to do our jobs.
How?
If somebody succeeds in making you the story, then are people going to believe you when you're telling it?
You want to call it a large protest?
Yeah, it was like 50 people.
Okay.
Debatable.
Let's say protest.
The job of a Fresno Bee reporter was already tough. Print circulations dropped from a peak of more than 163,000 daily subscribers in 2004 to just over 63,000 last year. So the Bees had to cut staff. And now a prominent elected official is trying to discredit the newspaper.
It's actually, I actually feel bad for the people who work at the Bee because sadly it's become just a left-wing rag.
That was the last interview Nunes gave to the Bee. The congressman didn't talk to Vice News about this story either.
I think the perception out there that this is some, very left-wing product is just not accurate. We've endorsed Devin Nunes in every election that he's run in. If we continue to do our jobs the right way, most people eventually are going to realize that, they need us. There's certain stories out there, if we don't report them, nobody's going to report them.
So you are kind of just giving up on that pocket of the readership or the community that believes Devin Nunes.
I wouldn't say I'm giving up on them, but I do think that there's some people you're just never going to convince them.
The fake news attacks on the media seem to be working. According to a recent poll, 72% of Americans now believe news sources report things they know to be false. Even Republican voters who are disappointed with Nunes aren't sure who to believe.
I'm not saying he's doing a bad job. I really don't know, because I don't have the objective reporting of facts to sort out those issues.
It sounds like you trust sort of your local politicians more than you trust the media.
The local politicians that I know, I trust. Yeah. I would trust more. Things have gotten so one-sided and divisive that, to me, when sometimes the media attacks somebody, it makes me favor them more, including Nunes.
Do you read the Fresno Bee?
Yes, I do. I read it every day.
How long have you been reading it for?
I used to throw the Fresno Bee. I was a paper boy. Really? So, I mean, I've been reading it since I was a kid.
Have you ever thought about giving up your subscription?
Yes, I have. But I in some ways, this might sound a little crazy, but there's a Chinese saying, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So I kind of want to know what they're saying.
Any lingering hopes of a pause in the fighting in Afghanistan during Eid celebrations were over by about 9 a.m. this morning, as the capital was rocked by explosions near the diplomatic compound that houses the US Embassy. President Ashraf Ghani, who just 2 days ago had floated the idea of a conditional ceasefire with the Taliban, was speaking live as the attack started. The compound is supposed to be one of the most well-protected areas in Kabul. Yet militants were able to get within a few hundred yards of it and fire a barrage of up to 20 mortars. What's that sound? Are you surprised that they were able to get those weapons in this proximity to those places?
والله دلته نم عامه ساده مشکلات د اختر وزارت دولت درلوده و موږ هم په دې باندې نه فکر سره رقم دو داخل سود.
Attack helicopters pounded the suspected launch site with rockets from the air, and security forces cordoned off the area. 8 hours later, the smoke had finally cleared enough for police to let us in. So there's probably about maybe nearly a dozen burned out cars just in this area. It's obviously a place where there were a lot of munitions being fired. Over there, you can see the charred body of someone who's presumably one of the fighters. We saw just 2 bodies in the end, an indication perhaps of how easy it is to wreak havoc on this capital. So this is apparently one of the rockets that were being stored in the truck. When they were hit by fire from the Afghan security forces, this blew up some of the munitions here. That's what we're being told. By early evening, families were returning to the area. Mohammed Omar witnessed the whole thing as he was getting ready to celebrate the Eid holiday with his family.
And they all see me and fire.
Were you surprised this happened?
No surprise.
This is normal now. Like, this is something that you
never
expect.
Want like this attack in our country. We want forever in our country peace.
It's been a grim few weeks in Afghanistan. Just days ago, around 50 people were killed in an ISIS suicide blast at a private school in the west of Kabul. ISIS also claimed responsibility for today's attack. For their part, the Taliban haven't commented on today's attack, but took credit for a major attack yesterday on a bus convoy in Kunduz province. They've also made large gains to the east, threatening to overrun Ghani, a key strategic city. And as the sun set on another day of chaos and violence in Kabul, with the government not even sure who carried out this attack, there's no pause in fighting on the horizon.
Наш поезд. Пойдем сюда.
Yevgeny Wojciechowski and Pavel Stotsko are newlyweds making plans for their future.
И, естественно, надо будет учить английский, потому что...
Да, главное успевать, чтобы качество не страдало.
The two men are Russian, but the life they're planning together is in the Netherlands, where same-sex marriage is legal. Today is important because the Dutch government's immigration agency is finally recognizing them as residents.
Собственно, вот. А ты письма достал? Давай.
How did you guys meet?
Значит, познакомились мы через интернет, ВКонтакте. Затем уже это все перешло в отношения, да, и мы поняли, что мы любим друг друга.
Мои родители знали, что мы живем вместе, но мой отец, например, не знал, что мы геи. Моя мама знала, но она старалась называть наши отношения дружбой.
Брак — это логическое продолжение наших отношений, потому что в России это невозможно зарегистрировать брак в ЗАГСе.
But Yevgeny and Pavel didn't just decide to get married. They decided to test the limits of Russia's ban on same-sex marriage.
Я звонил в ЗАГС и спрашивал о том, как иностранный брак может признаваться в России. Они мне подсказали посмотреть семейный кодекс, сказали, что ваш брак может признаваться на основании свидетельства о браке.
The couple took a trip to Copenhagen, where even tourists can get a marriage license and tie the knot. Returning to Russia, they went to the government office that registers marriages and records couples' marital status in their passports.
Они просто взяли наш сертификат о браке и проставили нам штампы. При этом женщина, которая проставляла штамп, она видела, что перед ней стоит два мужчины, но для нее это не был никакой шок. Регистрировать свои отношения. Теперь мы нашли путь, по которому в России...
Pavel and Yevgeny went on TV to share their story.
Расскажите, пожалуйста, как вам удалось зарегистрировать брак в России, хотя, насколько я знаю, это вроде бы невозможно?
Однополость или разнополость в этих причинах непризнания брака ничего не сказано.
The government agency which issued the stamps denied doing it despite the proof the couple offered. Then the threats started.
Что за дверью стоят люди в штатском, что они к нам ломятся, что у нас отключили интернет, у нас отключили свет. И после этого нам начало писать очень много людей о том, что вы находитесь в действительно серьезной ситуации.
После этого мы быстро собрали вещи, буквально 2 рюкзака и сумку. Самый простой для нас оказался эвакуация через Голландию.
Since fleeing to the Netherlands, Pavel is trying to get his Russian qualifications as a surgeon recognized, and Yevgeny wants to continue studying medicine. They talk to their family regularly online. At refugee language class, they met local couple Jan and Martin.
You know,
No.
the Russian manners are different from the Dutch manners.
No, it's not true.
See?
Is that what you're saying?
There's some aspects, yes.
Walking around town now, do you guys feel comfortable to hold hands, to act like a couple in ways that you weren't able to in Moscow?
Да. Когда мы были в Амстердаме на гей-параде, это был первый момент, когда мы на публике взялись с Пашей за руки.
Да, это было событие.
You were their first friends here, weren't you?
Yeah.
So do you feel a transformation since from when they first arrived?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, a lot of transformation. For instance, when they were in our party, they moved around and talked with people, and that was unbelievable.
Having grown up and lived in Putin's Russia, do you think it was a little naive to think that having the law on your side was enough to protect you?
В России, если вспоминать слова президента Путина, то он всегда очень любит повторять, что в России все происходит в рамках закона. Сейчас мы понимаем, что да, следовать закону в России наивно, потому что законы в России не работают. Дай посмотреть.
Отлично. Угу.
Это наша путевка в настоящую жизнь.
В безопасную жизнь.
Не в то, что было в России, а то, что теперь мы можем продолжать жить как нормальные люди.
И не скрываться.
She's so great! Great, love that. I feel so awkward and weird.
There are things I could only tell you quietly. That's why I wanna get inside and use my inside voice.
I feel kind of creeped out by that song a little bit. I don't know about inside voice. When I get inside and use my inside voice, it makes me feel uncomfortable a little bit. Like, that's like the worst song you could ever possibly play on a date. Like, hell no. Yeah, I feel that. I'd be fist bumping at the rave, late at night. I like listening to like club music, shit that you want to like really party to. Like, I like party music. It's a 10 out of 10 beat. It's like almost Coldplay.
I move so quickly, I thought I knew nothing.
When that first came in, it's kind of like felt like almost the same notes of clocks, and then it just like veered off into musical theatre zone. Like, the lead character in the musical is like pondering life. I would never personally listen to that.
What you gonna do when the drugs run out? Standing in the street with your tits out. Bonnie, I want you. Bonnie, I want you.
I'm just thinking about this girl called Bonnie with her tits out. I was kind of like not expecting there to be that kind of strummy guitar thing happening.
It's Plain White Tees.
Oh, I would never have thought that this was the Plain White Tees ever. I feel like Hey There Delilah was kind of like a bit of a like anomaly in their sound. Like, it blew up and everyone was like, oh, the Hey There Delilah guys, like really soft, like, but that's not really them, right? I feel like they're a lot harder. IRL. Don't stereotype the Plain White Tees, you know, because they're not just Hey There Delilah. They're other shit too, guys.